Hey everyone, welcome to Boldly Becoming. I'm Angie Mercier, a retired superintendent of education turned executive leadership coach. After 31 years working within the system, I'm now dedicated to helping us speak and live our personal truth, all while leading ourselves and others. Alongside my inspiring guests, we'll share thoughts and stories of authenticity, courage, and transformation. Boldly Becoming is for you if you know that you are meant for more and you're looking for a little extra heart and soul to help you navigate the way. Let's dive in. When was the last time you intentionally sought out an idea that challenged you instead of validated you? I recently came across someone whose views could not be more different than mine. And it was during a show. My husband and I were watching a Netflix series called Younger. You may have heard of it, and then you know what it's about. But in this particular episode, there was a character, and she was not only an investor in the publishing company, but she's also an author. And in the book that she was presenting to the group and she was pitching, she was talking about how the sisterhood is such a load of BS. And it's a load of BS that women have been fed and that women just need to do things more like men. They need to go out after things all by themselves. They don't need to be like trying to do it for one another. And I was like, what? And it really had me step back because it goes against everything I believe in. Like it totally made an impact because it stopped me, it bugged me, and it kept bothering me, like, it just kept bothering me, I couldn't stop thinking about it because I really had to pause and consider it. Instead of just dismissing it right away, I was like, "Okay, what is she saying here, and what are the implications for women as leaders? And has she got something here?" But in fact, the more I sat with it, the more it just strengthened my own strongly held belief in the sisterhood, in building community, in my belief about community and the value of community. And it has become a hugely critical and important part of my fundamental purpose at this season of my life. Have you ever heard of confirmation bias? Do you know what it is? Confirmation bias is just simply our brain's built in habit of playing favorites with the truth, right? Not all truths are created equally in our brain because our subconscious is wired for safety, predictability, the familiar, and wanting control. Certainty feels safe for us. Being right feels so familiar and comforting. So, without even realize it, we go on the hunt and look for evidence that proves what we already believe. We follow people who think like us. We read books that reinforce what we believe in. We listen to podcasts that we already agree with. We have this beautifully curated social media feed that's filled with people and thought leaders of people that we agree with and we know will fill our buckets with things that validate us. We are always like nodding along with them and saying yes or hashtag truth and then sharing it in our own stories. And it's not because we are close minded as human beings, it's because our brain prefers comfort, safe, predictable, and familiar, as we've been saying, over this hard and messy work of changing our minds. And honestly, everyone, there's nothing wrong with that until it becomes the only thing that we consume, things that validate us. How often have you heard or have you even used the phrase like minded people? I'm looking for like minded people. I want to get in rooms with like minded people. I want to read and listen to like minded people. And I know the intention behind it and I can appreciate it, but I I must admit, I bristle a little bit when I hear that phrase because our growth doesn't happen when we are only surrounded with people who agree with us. This is the shift I would love for you to consider, that our growth happens actually when somebody makes us feel uncomfortable, uncomfortable enough for us to start asking ourselves, like, why do I even believe this in the first place? Is this actually true? Where did this belief come from? Does this belief still serve me? It's like the story that I just shared about the younger character. It had me pause and reflect on my strongly held beliefs about community. And it was something that strengthened my original belief because I considered it for a moment. So sometimes when you're surrounded with people who are challenging you too, it does strengthen your original belief. And sometimes you may even change your mind. You may get a new creative idea that emerges. Maybe you'll learn something new, or maybe some deeply ingrained subconscious belief or pattern that you've been holding on to for a long time will finally be interrupted, and it will give you pause to notice it. It's all growth, regardless of any of it, whether it's strengthened your belief or whether it's created something new. It's all growth and it's all powerful. This has me thinking about some examples in leadership. So let's start with the podcast because this is one of my areas of leadership is this podcast, bringing it to you and leading this podcast community. So I wanted to take a minute and ask myself, and I did ask myself about podcast guests. Am I only going to invite people in or accept applications from people who sound like me? Like, no, I mean, I want to expand my perspective and your perspective through podcast guests. What about friendships? Here's a question for you. Are your friendships that you have with people who look like you, who act like you, who want to do always the same things as you? Are those your friendship groups? Are those your friends? Or do you seek out people who might take you on a new adventure? How about in the workplace? Do you take time to get to know people outside of your building in different roles? How about outside of your organization? That's something that Dana and I are creating in Bloom. We've expanded beyond the education system to bring in people from all over, from corporate, from nonprofit, in all different, retired, not retired. Like it's this beautiful mix of women who are there supporting one another and growing their perspectives and expanding who they are. And they have shared that. They've shared the power of the room that has diverse opinions and diverse people in the room. And that is a powerful piece that we didn't fully understand when we first were thinking about Bloom and thinking about it in the realm of education. But now we see the power of that space and how the diverse opinions and the diverse perspectives are the gold. They are the true gold of that space. How about political views? Do you enter into political conversations at all? First of all, I'll say that. And I will say that I sometimes, quite often, stay out of that space. It brings up lots of discomfort for me, even venturing into that space. And I know some of you are way more comfortable with that. But when you're talking to somebody with a differing political view, are you listening with an open mind or are you listening to defend your view and tell them why they're wrong? I want you to sit with that one for just a minute. Faith. Are you getting to know other world religions, other faith people in other faiths, and listening to some of their values and expanding your perspective beyond your own faith and religion? What about parenting? Everybody has an opinion on parenting. And oh, I remember before I became a parent having very distinct judgmental views about parenting until I became a parent. But are you getting to know different ways of doing things? Or are you thinking that your way is the right way and the only way? Are you looking at different business strategies and learning and keeping an open mind to something that maybe you've never tried before that might be successful in your line of business? How about on your leadership team when you're hiring and you're going through the hiring process? Are you looking for people who will continue to keep the status quo? Or are you looking for team members who will bring a different opinion and maybe ask the hard questions? We need people on our teams, right? To disrupt and interrupt the status quo. And if you don't have those people on your team, then what are you creating? Where are your blind spots? Because you will have blind spots if you have people who are all thinking about the same things. So let's get nitty gritty and practical, like I always like to do. So I have a couple quick ideas for you to help you to expand and grow. And I need to take this advice as much as I'm giving it to you here. So I would love to encourage you to read one book every year, at least one, but one at the minimum, that is written by someone you disagree with or are completely unfamiliar with. Maybe the topic or the summary that you've read, the synopsis, it kind of strikes a chord with you because it's so different. Take time to read that. And instead of just looking for the books that affirm us, let's look for the ones that challenge us. Also, follow one thoughtful voice online, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever your social media platform of choice is, but someone with a different perspective than you. When you're in conversations with people who have a different perspective, I want to challenge you to listen carefully. Ask questions instead of going right to a place of defending your opinion, because we can so often go there so quickly. And this next one is connected to that, and it is huge. Okay, are you ready? I want you to sit with discomfort before responding. When you feel yourself getting defensive and you want to defend your opinion, instead, I want you to get curious. And curious and getting curious means you are not judging yourself or the other person. You're in a state of wanting to know more, wanting to expand your thinking, and asking those critical questions that are not leading in a particular direction, but really are a place of curious interest. Because when we are curious and not judgmental, we can gain so much more from the conversation. Judgment actually stagnates our growth and our transformation. And that's judging ourselves or judging others. We want judgment out of the equation. So I want you to ask this powerful question when you're talking to these people that are challenging you. What if this person is seeing something I am completely missing? Yes, friends, it is possible that you are missing something important. I want to state that question one more time for you. What if the person I'm speaking to right now is seeing or saying something that I am completely missing? Imagine that there's a gap in your understanding or a gap in how you see something. You just imagine that for a minute. We spend so long trying to prove that we're right to people, especially in an argument, that sometimes it's difficult for us to step back and actually imagine that we have gaps in our thinking. And I know that sounds almost simplistic, but let's face it, that is truly our reality, especially when we're going from one thing to another and we don't take the time to stop, think, and think differently. So I want to make a few important distinctions here. This is really, really important. What I'm talking about here today is us challenging our ideas, not challenging our values. We don't need to abandon our values at the door when we're having these conversations. And we are absolutely not talking about tolerating hate. I'm not suggesting that we bring someone that is hate filled into our world and that we're tolerating and listening to that with curiosity. That is something completely different. And you don't have to agree with everyone. That is certainly not what I am suggesting here. But you can remain in a curious state and listen deeply. That is completely different. I've discovered that the people who shaped me the most weren't the ones who always agreed with me. They were often the ones who challenged me to think more deeply about what I believed and why. So maybe the strongest leaders in the room are not the ones with all the answers. Maybe the strongest leaders in the room are the ones willing to question their own beliefs without judgment and with open curiosity. I want to challenge you today, like I always do, to look for thoughtful people. And I use the word thoughtful, and I've used it a few times. People who you know are giving thought to what they're saying. Look for those thoughtful people who challenge you. And I'd love to encourage you to do and make one change today to find somebody that challenges you through a book, through a social media post, through a podcast, maybe just in your own group of friends, and you have that conversation with an open, curious mind. Because thoughtful disagreement is where true transformation happens on the boldly becoming road ahead. Thank you again to all of my podcast community for being here today, to keeping your minds open and in a non-judgmental space, and potentially walking away with something new and a new way of thinking. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who listens, and I would love for you to share this with somebody who could use this today. See you next time. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If something from this episode sparked a shift in you, I would love to hear about it. Please share your biggest takeaway or aha moment on social media and tag me so I can celebrate your growth along with you. And if this show is adding value to the person you are becoming, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a 5-star review. Your support helps us reach more leaders who are ready to speak their truth, and I am deeply grateful for every single one of you in this community. Remember, this life isn't about reaching a destination. It's about loving the process of who you are becoming every step of the way. I'll see you next time.